back on the Boulevard Thursday, April 4th. As always, here to prove to you there is no such thing as football season. We are presented by the Believe Network tonight, and folks, kickoff weekend is behind us, so it's time to weed out the casuals here because, sure, who doesn't enjoy a 7-point underdog winning on a 64-yard moonshot kick at the buzzer? You might have been with us then, but will you stay with us in week 2? That's the question. Consider this our sales pitch for you to stick around for the entire UFL season. This weekend, we got the winners bracket and the losers bracket as the 4 1-0 teams all play each other, and the 4 0-1 teams will all play each other. So, dare I say, is this double elimination? Can you afford to go 0-2 in the UFL and still have a shot at making the playoffs? Might be tough this year, but it did work out for the team of a guy we're about to bring in, the director, producer, and owner of Studio Z, Chris Zook. Zook, I dare you to pick against DC tonight. You won't. I could already tell you won't do it.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right.
We're going to talk about the...
what do you think? 0-2 team can make it?
I don't even have a team in the league, and I love this effing league. That's all I'm going to say. Week 1 was great. I can't wait for week 2.
What do you think, though? Can a team like Seattle go 0-2? Because two teams are going to be 0-2, right? So can teams afford to be 0-2 and still end up with a playoff shot?
I think so. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. Different this year than last year in the XFL.
Absolutely.
For sure. Well, on tonight's show, we're going to break down those 2 battles of the unbeaten as San Antonio will visit Memphis and then Birmingham will head to Michigan. The beer snake is back, and it's better than ever. Listen, I flushed that glorified preseason game in San Antonio down the toilet. DC's allergic to the Alamo Dome. We know that by now. Moving on from that debacle, and we're embracing the 20,000 strong we're about to have in Audi Field on Sunday. And while it's not quite as big of a spectacle as DC's home opener, we didn't forget about the Dome opener for St. Louis as well, looking to rebound from that shocking loss. And we'll wrap things up with our Week 2 best bets. 5 plays this week from Zook and I. We think there's some real value on this card. We told you, proceed with caution in Week 1. But now, folks, back to full units. We're here to burn the books in Week 2. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're live on YouTube, Twitter, X, and Facebook tonight. I just want to say before we get into games, awesome feedback from our Sunday NFL primetime style highlight show. If you haven't caught that yet, every Sunday night we are going to do a full NFL primetime style highlight live recap as a tribute to Boomer and TJ, who a lot of us grew up watching. Great feedback from that in Week 1. Can't wait to see you guys live on Sunday nights. And I promise I'll give some more nicknames for the players. I was already thinking about some of those. Quick glance at our UFL standings here. And I can't stress this enough, and I almost want to make it a weekly reminder. 2 teams from each conference make the playoffs. Let me say it again. 2 teams from each conference make the playoffs. There were rumors that this playoff format would change to include a wild card. It did not. So contrary to popular belief, 3rd place in either side here will not get you in the playoffs. Those are your Week 2 standings. Leading us off Saturday is the 3rd XFL USFL crossover game of the season. Can the USFL make it 3-0? Will Springball Boulevard survive this merge? That's the burning question. There's only 14 more crossover games to go. So it's up to you, AJ Smith. Even though your offense ruined my Easter Sunday, it's all on you this week to carry that XFL torch. It's the Brahmas at the Showboats. Visitors favored by 2.5. Total sits at 40.5. Forecast for Memphis Saturday, 60 and partly cloudy with a breeze. I want to start with this San Antonio offense up against the Memphis defense. AJ Smith back where he belongs, on the sidelines. After spending the entire XFL season in the booth last year, that seemed to make a pretty big difference. I was also impressed with how poised Chase Garbers looked against a pretty strong DC front. AJ actually said during the ESPN broadcast that Greg Williams would normally come out into Tampa 2, but he didn't. And look what happened. Garbers and the Brahmas right down the field on the first drive. 11 plays, 60 yards, just like that, 7-0. I'll tell you what San Antonio has, guys, on this side of the ball. They have an accurate quarterback who can ditch the pocket with Chase Garbers. They have the best running back duo in the XFL conference with Anthony McFarland and John Lovett. They have the most dynamic playmaker in the XFL conference with Jontre Kirkland. He could run, he could catch, he could even throw the ball. And also, they probably have the fastest guy in the league with Marquez Stevenson lining up out wide. So you add all that together with a center who anchors a pretty damn good offensive line and also somehow catches 40-yard touchdown passes. And then you got A.J. Smith as well. So a winning formula for San Antonio. However, it wasn't all perfect. If you're the Memphis defense this week, you have an edge, and it's on third down. San Antonio just 1 of 8 on third down last week. That was worst in the UFL. They made up for it by going 3 for 4 on fourth down, staying aggressive, as A.J. Smith will continue to do. They also had 2 major breaks, did that San Antonio offense. They had a fake field goal touchdown, and they had penalties that wiped at least 15, if not more, DC points completely off the board, which just so happens to be around the margin they lost by in a 2-score game. Those penalties set them up for San Antonio's only second-half touchdown. So Memphis, guys, the only defense to score this entire weekend, as you just saw on the highlight. They also racked up 4 sacks, which is tied for a league high. Greg Reeves with a pair of those himself. He's out of USF. This defense showed out. They pitched a shutout through 29 minutes of football. And statistically, they are the number 1 defense in the UFL currently. But with all that said, on this side of the ball, edge to the San Antonio offense. I just feel like Memphis is taking a step up in competition here. This isn't Houston. San Antonio's faster than Houston. They protect the quarterback better than Houston. I mean, think about it. San Antonio dropped 14 on DC's defense before I could even peel my damn Easter egg. Thanks, A.J. Smith. I had a great dinner. But if Memphis wants to flip this edge, here's what you got to do. Get them in third and long situations, and you do what DC couldn't, which is get home to Chase Garbers. And we saw on some injury reports that San Antonio might be missing their starting tackle, Derek Kelly, which could open the door for the Memphis pass rush. I would take the ball here to start if I'm John DeFilippo. Remember, home team gets to choose. I would take the ball. That Brahmas offense has been super quick strike. The last thing you want is to be playing from behind against A.J. Smith and co. So again, slight edge here to San Antonio's offense. Let's flip sides of the ball. The Memphis offense against that Brahmas defense. This is where I think Memphis tends to be maybe a tad overrated. I'm seeing them as high as 3 in a lot of UFL sets of power rankings from different outlets. I don't know. We had them at 7, and I'm going to get a lot of pushback. That's not a traditional 7 out of 8. That's just, I think they played the worst team in the league, and I'm only going to give them credit for beating that team. They haven't beat anybody else yet to move them up against teams that played against tougher competition. Let's talk about Memphis offensively. Case Cookus only completed 57% of his passes, which I would be fine with if the Showboats were playing from behind, but they were not. They had the lead, so the completion percentage should reflect that. It was 15-3 at half, and the running game was still garbage. I mean, that's the kind of game situation you want to rely on the run. And the running backs had 14 carries for 2 yards. 14 carries for 2 yards from your running backs. How do you have 2 rushing yards from your tailbacks? I just, especially when you have a 2-score lead the entire game, leaning on the clock, just a red flag. a lot of credit to the Houston defense, but that Memphis running game was awful. And they turned it over twice in the second half and nearly blew the lead. The offense, of course, has some potential. Here's the problem. They get in those passing situations in the first half that make Cookus look pretty good on third down. In fact, they went 9 of 15 on third down. But they can't establish the run against a very good San Antonio defense, who, as you see, tie for the league in sacks, second against the run through 1 week, and really good in red zone defense. I mean, San Antonio's defense made Jordan Ta'amu look like a shell of himself on Sunday. So how will Memphis offensive line, who gave up 3 sacks and 7 TFLs to Houston, contain probably the best front seven in the UFL with the San Antonio Brahmas? I don't think they can. I know the Brahmas might have a starter or two hurt, looking at the reports, but huge edge to San Antonio's defense here in this one. That's where the value lays for me in the Brahmas as a short favorite, and that's why you're seeing more money come in. This line opened at 1.5. It took steam to 2.5 already. If Memphis can only muster 1 offensive touchdown against Houston, I'm not sure they can do better than that against San Antonio. And I don't like the total here because it's 40, but gun to my head, I lean the under as well in this one. Zook, the Brahmas are the pick here. Wade Phillips out there in the bright yellow polo, kind of looking like a wet floor sign. But I think he has a championship caliber squad this year. I love Coach Wade, but maybe switch the polo up to the black this week.
I can't believe you went there.
I'm trying to be nice. I love Coach Wade, but I mean, that is like...
Everybody thought it.
It's like he looks like a
But you're the one
sign.
that said it out loud.
I mean, it's hard to rock yellow.
I know.
And
especially solid yellow.
I would love to get to that point in my career where I just do not care like Wade Phillips. I got to give him credit for that. He's like, yeah, I look like the damn sun shining out here. Like, this is what we're going with. Who you got, Zook?
This is sad because it doesn't happen much, but I'm not going to say much because I actually agree with everything you said. You should probably timestamp this.
Oh!
You should probably timestamp this.
Doubling up.
Because
is that a hint for best bets, maybe?
It doesn't.
Ooh.
It might be, but it doesn't happen much, so timestamp it.
You made a comment to me earlier this week about how you tailed Houston a lot last year, now into San Antonio. So I'm not shocked that you're riding with your boy, A.J. Smith, again. Shout out to Will Reed in that defense as well, looking really, really good through 1 week. No back-to-back Saturday games this week. Actually, plenty of time to get 18 holes in. Go play some golf, come back, settle in, and you got a primetime game, the Dome opener in St. Louis. And if you're Bob Stoops, you got to be thinking, why do they keep scheduling us as St. Louis's home opener? This is the second year in a row that they got to go in and play in the Dome for the home opener. Back-to-back years for them, fighting off 35,000 plus of these Bud Select drinking, cacawing football freaks. So it'll be interesting. And just remember, guys, is this a home field advantage? Yes, of course it is. And we'll talk to Steven Gonzalez coming up about that. But they're not unbeatable in this building. They lost their 2 biggest games on this very field last year. So there's certainly a chance for Arlington. It's the Renegades and the Battlehawks. The home Hawks favored by 5 here at press time. Total sits at 41.5. Forecast looking like a pretty high BAC by the time we kick at 7 Central in St. Louis, especially with the Cardinals playing down the street earlier in the day. So let's take a look at the Battlehawks offense against that Renegades defense first. Story of that side of the ball for St. Louis last week was the drive chart in the first half, which went like this. Punt, 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 field goal. That's not the Battlehawks offense we were supposed to have. In fact, I feel like they are becoming such a rhythm-reliant style of offense that if they get hot like they did in the fourth quarter of this game, they're unstoppable. You get AJ on the same page as some of these receivers, it will take another 64-yard miracle field goal to win it. However, St. Louis probably going to try to go back to what worked last week. So They are a pass-first offense. They would like to establish a run, but the pass has been working more. You can also kind of mix things up and replace that traditional run game with some screens. They had a jet sweep to Blake Jackson. I thought that's a good kind of substitute for a traditional run game. And get more looks to Wayne Gallman and Jacob Sailors through the air, I think is something that Bruce Gradkowski can do. Arlington was not good against the tight end last week. They gave up a few big gainers to Jay Sternberger, Sal Cannella, another guy who comes in that can do the same thing. Also, you think about Jake Sutherland, the tight end for St. Louis. Got to give him some love. 3 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown. 8 routes ran. If that's not efficiency, I don't know what is. The Battlehawks offensive line, let's talk about them a little bit. 3.5 sacks given up. They actually weren't as bad as the box score might have indicated on Saturday. They did give AJ plenty of time to create those huge plays in the pass game. We saw him find Darius Shepard scrambling towards the sideline for one, and we talked to Steven about that coming up here. But I was shocked that the Renegades only generated 1 sack against St. Louis. I think most of that is because, 1 sack against Birmingham. And most of that is because Birmingham's quarterbacks are so fast with Corral and Martinez and have the ability to get out of the pocket. But I expect the Arlington defense will have more opportunities with a less fleet-footed A.J. McCarron, where they might generate more sacks in this game. At the end of the day, Arlington's defense gave up the most pass yards in the league last week. The Battlehawks wide receiver and tight end room is probably just as deep as the Stallions. So the edge to the St. Louis offense here, they just got to find a way to start faster. That's going to be the key. What worries me for Arlington is if the Battlehawks do catch fire late in this game, that Renegades defense is going to fade the same way they did against Birmingham in the second half. Let's look at the other side of the ball. Renegades O, Battlehawks D. I think I have kind of an unpopular take on this one. If I'm Arlington, I'm starting Lindsey Scott Jr. And the unfortunate downside of that is you have to bench Luis Perez, which is, he doesn't deserve that. I'm not saying bench Luis Perez, but if you want to completely flip the script of this game, go with Scott out of the gate, roll the dice, and see what happens. Hold your breath, because I promise you St. Louis would not be prepared for that. It looked like Bob Stoops and Chuck Long were sort of comfortable getting him in the game. They had him on the first 2-point conversion try. They brought him in on a regular play from scrimmage later on, but it ended up being a false start. So, you know, I'm just so high on Scott, man. He's really being slept on, and you don't just score 71 touchdowns in 14 games in your last year of college. I think he threw for 4,700 yards on a 70% completion rate. Like, this guy's a winner. It's high risk, high reward, and then if the wheels fall off, you can just go right back to Perez, who looked pretty good when he had to come in for Brett Hundley in relief. So we don't want to waste too much time, of course, talking about things that are probably not going to happen. But when you score just 1 offensive touchdown in week 1 and you're running for 3.3 yards a carry like Arlington was, it doesn't hurt to get Lindsey Scott, your number 1 draft pick, some more game reps and get him ready to make an impact in the UFL. Otherwise, look for Deontay Burnett to show out this week, expecting another solid game from him. Michigan had 14 yards per completion against this very same Battlehawks defense. So Burnett's going to get his. I really don't know what to make of the St. Louis pass defense. They kind of confused me. They only gave up 168 through the air, and a lot of those were explosive plays. They had 2 picks. They got sort of lucky on the one that bounced into Quinterio Cole's breadbasket. Mike Rose is a guy who had a pick last week. He's nursing an ankle, went to the IR, probably not going to play. So I'll give the edge, actually, to that Renegades offense here, only because I didn't see what I thought I was going to see from Pita Talmo-Penu last week. Is Pita going to produce in this one? He only had 1 tackle. Now, Willie Harvey was flying around out there to make up for it, but I still trust this Arlington pass game. I think Javonte Payton is a deadly deep threat. He would have had a few touchdowns last week if Perez could have got the ball to him. You could find Sal Cannella across the middle like you did all last year and get Isaiah Winstead in space. That guy could burn as well. As far as the pick goes, Zook, give me St. Louis, of course, in front of the home crowd. I just feel like Arlington struggled too much on third down defensively, giving up 8 of 12 to Birmingham, and they actually might be missing 2 or 3 starters on defense to injury. So AJ and these guys can really get in a rhythm once they get going. This will be a tight one. In fact, I think it's an up and down affair where both teams will catch a lead at some point. But it wouldn't be Battlehawks football if it didn't come down to the final seconds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's how this game is going to end. It's going to be super tight. We might get a field goal at the end. I'm going to take St. Louis with that game-winning field goal. The offensive line worries me. AJ got pressured a lot. It came early. So is Arlington going to bring the same pressure early and kind of shake AJ? Because that's what I thought would happen. He just didn't look great. And then he finally got comfortable in the fourth quarter and started to make a run. But to be honest, it was just too damn late. So I'm taking St. Louis close.
Yeah, I know that one at a 5-point spread, that actually, if I'm taking a lean on this one, I'm kind of going with Uzuk where I lean Arlington. This might be the over that hits this week. That's not a best bet, but I don't like the under here just because I do think both passing games can find some success. So that's our Saturday slate. And while we're on the topic of St. Louis and their return to the Dome, why don't we hear from Battlehawks captain Steven Gonzalez here on Spring Ball Boulevard. From Union City, New Jersey, to my alma mater, Penn State, where he was an all Big Ten offensive lineman and a Big Ten champion. Now an offensive captain in his second year as a St. Louis Battlehawk. Welcome to Spring Ball Boulevard, Steven Gonzalez. Thanks for joining us today, man.
Thanks, Maddie. Thanks for having me. Appreciate y'all for having me on, man. Always love having an opportunity to chat with y'all for sure.
Yeah, you were our first ever guest, so give it up to you for Spring Ball Boulevard. We're
I
back.
remember that.
We're back for season 2.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier, I would have liked to get you after a win, but that's okay because we're behind it. We got positive vibes coming up this week, and spring football in general has really been good to you. All-XFL last year. You're named the team captain this season, a fan favorite in St. Louis. What has worked for you in this last year and a half of your football career?
I just think my experience, just from what I gained, my time with the Cardinals, Bills, just bouncing around different NFL teams, my time at Penn State, honestly, all that has just kind of culminated, and I feel like I've matured in the football field, and I think I'm just becoming one of those experienced older guys. I was actually captain last year as well, with AJ as well and some other guys, but they just didn't announce it. But, honestly, it's an honor being a 2-time captain. I'm honestly blessed. I was never a captain in college, game captain and things like that, but nothing like, being a team captain and being, one of the guys that, they rely on. I'm a leader, I'm one of the guys, that has, they're looking forward to step up every time they need a play made, especially on the offensive line. If they need someone to pick the offense up, pick the O-line up. So honestly, to have that responsibility is a lot. But I think I'm definitely built for it. I'm ready for it. And I've accepted it. And I knew it from day one. When I was coming back, I was like, I'm going to have to be the leader of the O-line. Going to have to make sure the guys are straight, make sure the offense is running straight, and O-line goes as we go. So it starts with me, and yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of responsibility, but super excited, super blessed, just happy to be here in year 2. Things just honestly have been working out for me, and I can't complain. Just all glory to God for that one.
Absolutely making Penn State and Coach James Franklin proud for sure, man. It's been a pleasure to watch you. And getting into this week a little bit, I can imagine that a loss like that and the way it happens really stung and kind of shocked that sideline in the moment, because you guys were on the other side of that last year. against San Antonio, against Seattle. I think you had an overtime game against Vegas that was decided on the final play. So what did you learn about your team Saturday afternoon, and what adjustments does that translate to from week 1 into week 2?
You know what? What we learned is that, we're just fighters at the end of the day. I mean, we knew that from, the San Antonio game last year, Seattle game last year, overtime in Vegas. Like, we just, especially as like an offense, but as a team and whole, like, we're just scrappy. We fight. We're, even if the situation seems like it's, we're down and out, like, even in that game, we were down 9-15 with not that much time left, and we still converted a 4th and 10, converted fourth and something, a 4th and 5, I believe, and we're able to score and go up by 1, and the guy just hit a hell of a field goal, and just it sucks to lose like that, but we know that we have a resilient group. We know that we have an experienced group, a bunch of leaders on our team. Obviously, starts with AJ. But we have PETA, we have Travis Feeney, like we have a whole bunch of just experienced guys that have been through this, have been through many, a lot of football. They've played a lot of football, so they just know how to handle it and handle a loss and just move on. We got to learn from it. There's mistakes that we made that we needed to learn from, and I feel like we've learned from it. We've come out, we've had a good week of practice, and we just hope that it all comes together on Saturday. But I definitely think that this group is super resilient. I mean, I said it after, we beat Seattle week 2. I was like, I already knew. Or from week 2 from last year, like, I already knew this group was resilient. For us to do 2-minute drives in back-to-back weeks is, pretty hard to do. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we're a resilient group. You'll see it on Saturday. And yeah, I mean, that's just pretty much sum it up.
Yeah, AJ definitely thrives with the game on the line, and I'm sure there's been times where you look back, you get off a block, and you're like, how do you end up over there? Like he just ran 40 yards across the field to find Darius Shepard. But that takes us into yeah.
It gets a little scary when he's running around back there. You don't know where he's at. You don't know what he's deciding what he wants to do. So, especially on that one play, we had a block for like 20 seconds. There was one play towards the end that we were blocking for like 20 seconds. And then he just happened to find someone like for a first down. I was like, oh, well, all right. So he just makes plays happen. What our mindset is just protect as long as we have to and until we hear the whistle, honestly.
Yeah, so that takes us into Arlington. Same defensive coordinator over there, and I think they have like 7 or 8 core guys back on that defense from the championship squad. They have a really solid group of linebackers, pretty good front 7, but they struggled a bit last week against Birmingham. Since there's more tape available now on this Arlington defense than you guys had on Michigan, what becomes the focus this week offensively?
Run the ball for sure. Run the ball, set the tone. I mean, obviously we're going to throw the ball a lot. We have AJ at quarterback. He's going to make his adjustments. He's going to have his RPOs. So we're always going to have, our options to throw. And we always do throw a lot. So, that part of the aspect won't be taken out, but definitely starting fast has been a big aspect this week. Starting fast on offense, especially. And then just running the ball, setting the tempo, honestly, setting the tempo from the start of the game. If we're able to run the ball and we're able to gash them, even if it's for 8, 5, 6, and we're just doing a little at a time, it'll eventually open up. It'll start becoming 10, 15, 20, and so on and so forth. So I think that's honestly our biggest emphasis this week was developing our run game, making sure that we're ready to go to run the ball. And then, just to firm up and stay sturdy in pass protection and just communicate and stay on the same page. And even if things don't go right, just move on. Next play, you got to have a next play mentality, and even if you do bad, good, no matter what the play was before, just move on to the next one, communicate with your guys, make sure we're all on the same page and get ready to go for the next snap.
Yeah, obviously you guys are a pass-first offense, but definitely with the run game, Birmingham rushed for 183 yards on Arlington and 5.1 a carry. So definitely an opportunity in the run game there. You played in the greatest environment in college sports in Happy Valley, so about true home field advantage. And this is a hungry crowd in St. Louis. They haven't been back in almost a full year now, and that ticket map online is looking promising. I took a look at it today, and I was shocked with the amount of tickets that are sold. What are you personally expecting Saturday night?
I'm hoping for like 40,000 plus or 45,000 plus. I'm hoping 45. Honestly, that would be pretty cool. But definitely, I'm expecting 40,000 for sure. Like more than 40,000, I think. I mean, even last year, the record high was 38 for all XFL, all spring leagues. It was 38,000. So we were only a couple thousand people off. Like I think St. Louis will come out strong for the first game, even though we lost that first game. They know, we're a resilient group. They know we're gonna fight through it. Coach Becca is gonna steer the ship right. We're gonna be okay. We got leaders on our team, so they know we're going to, we need their support. We need them out there on the field because honestly, they're a huge help. They really are. That third down, it gets loud in the dome. So I think they'll show up. I think they'll be loud. They're going to be passionate. I mean, like you said, they lost football with the Rams. So, when football season comes around, when spring football comes around, those Battlehawks are here in town. They get rowdy. They get crazy. So, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to go back to the dome. I mean, it's a fun place to be, honestly.
Yeah, really cool to see you guys have a home game in prime time as well. I'm curious,
Yeah.
how do things change for you, Steven, when you're coming from Penn State and we know how it is there on the week of a home game. You're literally on campus with students, you're downtown, you can feel the buzz in the air. You can see the stadium from practice every day. You wake up Saturday morning, you're at the team hotel, like that's your home, like you're there.
Yeah.
When How does that kind of translate? How do you guys embrace St. Louis as your real home and kind of plant your flag and get into that mentality of, hey, even though we prepped in Texas all week, we're here, this is our city, and even though we're coming from the same place, Arlington is still visiting us.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little weird to get used to, but honestly, once you're in St. Louis, you just feel at home. Honestly, all the fans, they see us in our gear, they know us, they say hi to us, they want us to take pictures, have autographs. Like we honestly, it feels like we're wanted out there. Like even like we went to Michigan and I didn't see many Michigan Panthers fans or things like that. Like not a knock to them, but like you know, St. Louis has just a different drive, a different passion. Same as DC. DC fans, I saw, a couple of people wearing, like you wearing the hat now. Like I saw people doing that too when I was over there in
Yeah.
DC last year. So, just different drive, different passion. And they embrace us, so we have to embrace them. We want to embrace them. We want to be their team. We want to represent them. It's an honor to represent St. Louis because like you said, they deserve an NFL team. They're an NFL city. They deserve it. They come out every home game and they're very passionate. So, we just try to show up and show out for them and represent the city as best we can.
Yeah, and great conversations at the kickoff game in Arlington over the weekend with some of the league executives, namely Russ Brandon, who was talking about how he's already underway for 2025 and the full planning of the season, and they weren't that far along last year. So when we talk about potentially one day getting into St. Louis, having a front office, having the team there during the week like a real professional environment, looks very promising for the future of spring football. We have to do what we have to do now, and that includes cutting costs and having a centralized hub and making things a lot more efficient. But in the future, they can absolutely get back to that front office type of deal.
Yeah, exactly. And that's honestly, I think that's where their mindset's at. That's where they're planning to, eventually lead to. I just think for now they need to build up in Arlington, but eventually they want people to be in their own fan base. They want to eventually be able to franchise these teams and, have owners and have all these things. So I think those are the plans for the future for sure. I can't, I'm not in those executive offices, so I can't really say too much. I don't really know anything. But just from what I can assume that they do want to do that. They want to have these players be in the cities, build relationship with the fans, build relationship with the city, do community outreach events. Like, I just think now that we're merged, we have more access to do that. And yeah, it's exciting to see what the future holds in that regards. But it would be pretty cool if we can, be in St. Louis there, pretty much full time, kind of like an NFL team would be, professional team would be.
Yeah, last one, and then I'll let you go. You bring up the merge. I kind of had a question about that. In your evaluation coming back for year two, you've been going against your own defense in camp, which added new pieces. You guys scrimmaged Birmingham in camp. You played Michigan last week. How much better, in your opinion, did the defenses get in this league post merge? And does it feel like a step up in competition from last year?
Definitely. There's definitely been a step up from the competition. I mean, you got to think about it. All the USFL and XFL teams that got disbanded, all their best players went to other teams. So, like for example, us, we got XFL Defense Player of the Year, PETA, and so to have you just add pieces like that. We got we got Jacor Pearson on offense, like what I mean, like just different pieces. I know it's defense and offense a little bit different, but what I'm saying is that the talent is getting dispersed throughout the league. I mean, just DC alone, their defense is hugely revamped just on the D line. I mean, you guys got Trent Harris, you got TJ Barnes, like you guys got dudes there. Like you had dudes there last year, now you have dudes there now. So honestly, like I think the defenses have gotten a lot better. On paper, they look a lot better. Last year there was guys we didn't even really have scouting reports for because we never seen them play or we didn't have film on them. So like now this year you have guys that and like guys that have been in the league, in and out of the league, in multiple spring ball leagues, AAF, XFL 2020, USFL 2 years ago, like bouncing around everywhere. So honestly, it's a lot. And these defenses are going to bring the best that they got every week. They're playing for jobs as well. So it's going to be a challenge. It's definitely going to be a challenge. It was a challenge last week. It's going to be a challenge this week, and it'll be a challenge for the rest of the year. But honestly, as an offensive lineman that wants to be in the NFL, that is striving to be there, like I think this is the league you need to be in if you want to get there because you're going to face the best talent every week. Like you're going to face guys that are on that cusp, like on that margin right there where you're close to being in the NFL. So it's definitely been a step up from last year, but it's an exciting challenge. Happy for it. Happy we get better and to improve every week. So that's definitely it's been a positive for the league, I think, for sure.
Yeah, we're still early on and got a season to play, but I cannot wait to see how many guys come out of this thing to NFL camps. I mean, I think it's going to be a staggering number that really puts you guys
Yeah.
on the map, and I think Russ Brandon, the president, is setting up for that. And it's interesting, a lot of teams with their own identity. Defensively, you guys take a lot of guys from Seattle. I'm seeing Chris Payton Jones out there. Quinterio Cole gets a pick last week, and how good both those teams and how competitive they were last year. Now they kind of merged together on the
Yeah.
defensive side of the ball. You have Birmingham, who just goes out and gets everybody that was fringe NFL. You have San Antonio, who goes out and takes Houston's entire defense and staff. So these are all like all-star teams to me, and I think right
Yeah.
right now, like through week one, it just feels like there's going to be a bunch of teams in that group to battle for that second place spot, and it's going to
Yeah.
be every single game matters. Where I think we both know last year in the XFL there was a separation of tiers where it was kind of the good teams and the bottom, and you kind of knew each week who to expect to win. Where this year it's literally all up in the air, and it's great football coming down to the very end.
Yeah, and I just think it's good for the league in general. You're just going to get good football every week. Like, you're not going to get, a shitty game where you're bored and you don't want to watch these two teams because they're just not that talented. Like, no, you're going to get a good game every week, and I think the offenses will get better. It's easier for the defenses to start better because the offense just even though you have training camp, like it's a little bit shorter of a training camp. You don't really have an off season either where you're doing spring practices. So it takes a little time to kind of warm up, and especially with new pieces and things like that. So I think in the next coming weeks, you'll start seeing these offenses start really letting it loose. And, I think more points will be scored in this league because I think the offenses are very improved as well, honestly.
Yeah,
So,
kind of treating week one as kind of a glorified preseason, knowing yes, the game counts, of course it matters just as much as the others,
yeah.
but it was a short training camp for you guys and adding a lot of new pieces and kind of getting your identity week two. And yeah, you talk about the excitement level of the games, like, you know, for your sake, I'm hoping it's a little more comfortable this week, but I know if there's 2 minutes left and the ball's in AJ's hands, that's almost exactly where he wants to be, right? That's where he
Yeah.
thrives. And I know it can
That's
be
that's where we all want to be. Honestly, that's where we all want to be. I mean,
yeah.
like even I'm used to it too. At Penn State, we always ran 2 minute drills to start practice every Tuesday. Every Tuesday practice in the season, there was a 2 minute drill to start the practice. So
Right.
for me, like, and the other guys too, we're used to it. We're like I said, resilient group. AJ wants that ball with his hands in 2 minutes. So like I said, these offenses are just going to look good. We're going to be solid as the weeks go on, and like I said, everyone's going to improve from this league. There's just a lot of beneficiary things from this league, and it's honestly been a good ride so far. But like I said, I'm excited to get to St. Louis this week. that's really what I'm looking forward to.
That is Steven Gonzalez. Appreciate your time, man. If you're in St. Louis this week, give him a shout. Number 74. You already know who he is, repping as a team captain on this one. As St. Louis home opener, he's saying 45K. Let's go, right? Why not? Why not 45K?
Let's do it.
Appreciate you, Steven. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, Maddie. Appreciate you again, man, for having me on.
Great chat with Steven Gonzalez there. Actually, one of the only former Nittany Lions still around in the UFL. I think John Lovett, he was a transfer from Baylor to Penn State who hung around Penn State for a year, is another guy. But yeah, a lot of Penn State influence in the XFL last year. Steven continuing to carry that Nittany Lion blue and white flag into the UFL in 2024, making all of us Penn Staters pretty proud. Drop us a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We are into Sunday's action now here live. This could be the UFL's time to shine from a TV's perspective, if you think about ratings, because they have no Final Four to go up against like they will on Saturday night. We saw 2 upsets last week. Will this be the one? Will Michigan do it again? Is there a field goal that Jake Bates can't make? And how far is Mike Nolan willing to push this kid? Do they try him from 70? It's Birmingham at Michigan. The visiting Stallions favored by 6.5. Total sitting at 41.5. The forecast, 0 precipitation or wind for Jake the Earthquake Bates, who emerged as a star inside Ford Field. Let's look at the Stallions offense against the Panthers defense. Fascinating matchup here when you consider what both of these individual units showed us in week 1. And hats off to Colin Bauer. Man, the Michigan first-year defensive coordinator. He was promoted from the D-line coach under Mike Nolan last year. He comes out of nowhere with a near-perfect game plan. They get after AJ early. They threw a really good offense, completely off balance in the first half of that game. Can they do the same against Birmingham? Well, here's the one thing they have working against them, I believe, in week 2. Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez can both run. And this offense for Birmingham already seems so wide open that when you add that element, Skip Holtz is just going to keep adapting that system to Matt Corral's strengths. Even Martinez, 3 carries for 52 yards on Saturday before he got hurt. And Corral, I told you he would, and he took off when he needed to as well. That's going to create challenges for this Michigan front. But Daniel Wise, great game last week for the Panthers. He'll be ready to stuff that run. I think it'll be tough sledding for the Stallions to top their 183 on the ground that they had against Arlington from last week. But, man, they were rolling in that second half. Guys, they ended this game, the Birmingham offense, 25 first downs. I mean, they hold the ball for basically the entire fourth quarter. So I'll just go ahead and say it. In the USFL conference, this is the best offense against the best defense on that side. I think most of us probably penciled Michigan in for an 0-2 start early, but they had a brutal schedule, and here they are with a chance at 2-0. How huge would that be for that fan base? And how do you slow down Matt Corral, though? You don't. You just don't. I mean, this is a guy who's going to get better every week until we realize he probably never belonged in the UFL. Let's be honest. He has the talent around him that could even be a bigger test than A.J. McCarron was for the Michigan D in week 2 and Colin Bauer. And really, if you're Michigan, your edge here is to ugly this one up. You just want to make it physical. When Martinez comes in, force him to throw the ball. And don't give up double moves to one of the fastest wide receivers in the league in Deion Kane. Don't let that one slip by you. I think Birmingham falls a few points short of last week's scoring output. I don't think they quite get 27 on the board, which is their total from last week. I think you're looking at more of a lower 20s, which total here at 41.5. Sort of leaned under on, but I didn't want to take the under with a Skip Holtz offense. I just feel like this offense is capable of being the first team in the UFL to put up that 30 spot. But Colin Bauer looks to keep the momentum going. Mike Nolan and that Michigan defense, they could be without Breland Speaks this week, which might be huge. Keep an eye on that injury report. Taking a glance at the other side of the ball, Panthers offense lining up against the Stallions defense. This is the real edge in this matchup for me. I'm not confident in Marcel Belfay's unit in this one. EJ Perry threw 2 picks last week. Maybe not his fault on the second one, but guys like Mark Gilbert, who might be the best cover corner in this league for Birmingham, are going to feast on that. Perry only 50% of his passes completed last week, but he did kind of look like Ben DiNucci out there scrambling around. So he's got some wheels and he's got some navigation and some elusiveness on the field, but passing game wasn't great. Those 2 rushing touchdowns that he had really swung the whole game. And like I said, they weren't cakewalks into the end zone. He had to really earn those. And Wes Hills for Michigan is certainly going to be a tougher challenge than the Arlington backfield presented for Birmingham. Ultimately, though, this offense just could not sustain drives. They relied too much, did Michigan, on the explosive plays on the offensive side. Their first 5 series, they had 3 punts and 2 turnovers. And I just have to give the edge to the Stallions defense. Pretty large here. It's obvious who I'm going with, I think, at this point. You see the Birmingham defense, like maybe little mediocre numbers when it comes to UFL rankings because Arlington did put up some yards. But, I mean, they allowed Arlington to 3 points in the second half of that game. So let me be clear here. I'm taking Birmingham. I respect the Michigan Panthers. I do. And I actually lean them to cover. Too big of a number. I think it's a 4 to 5 point game. And a lean to the under. I'd give it actually a pretty confident lean. Not a best bet, but I like the under. I don't think Michigan will score much. I think the key for the back-to-back upset for the Panthers is just get to midfield because you got Jake Bates. I mean, you could get 3 with any time at this guy. I don't want to see a punt from Michigan's offense unless you're at like the minus 45 or farther back. Send this kid out. Zook, Birmingham, Michigan. I think I have an idea of what you're going here.
I'm sure you do. Yeah, straight up, I'm taking Birmingham. They're too balanced on both sides of the ball. Like you said about ball control. I like Michigan's defense, but I don't think it holds up.
Enough to cover?
We're talking straight.
Yeah, I know. This 6.5 is
six.
The only spread, I think, well, DC's didn't really move either. This spread didn't move. We saw some movement in San Antonio. We saw some movement on St. Louis. This line stayed pretty rock solid, which means there's not a lot of money coming in it on either side. I don't know. You make Michigan a touchdown dog 2 weeks in a row at home. I don't think Birmingham covers. I see like a 22-19 or something like that here.
Yeah. I don't know.
Really would be 22-19. I mean, that's going to get you 41. So that's going to put you right there at the over-under as well. Right.
I'm putting both defenses kind of on the same level playing field. And that Birmingham offense is outstanding. They're well above Michigan.
And they're going to get better. That's the scary part.
Right.
That was week 1.
That's week 1, right.
Yeah, so they could put up 30 at any point, I think. I just don't think this is the week. I think Michigan has one of the better defenses. I think the best defense in the USFL side.
I'm not betting this game.
No.
I think this is stay away.
Yeah. If I had to, I'd lean the under, but let's get that out of the way, right? Because it's time to talk the best game of the weekend. As the cliche goes, we save the best for last tonight. And finally, the DC Defenders have come back to the nation's capital. And we, the people, in order to form a more perfect beer snake, have brought back our famous beer snake tutorial for you tonight. Very simple process. Step 1, acquire your beer. Step 2, ingest your beer. Step 3, place your beer on the rear end of that snake. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you beer snake. Now I've collected myself. Thank you for the Penn State degree. Helping me for that one.
That was cute, by the way.
Yeah, it's nice to have a team in this fight, Zook. It really is. Now, step 4, I didn't add repeat. Responsibly. Responsibly, of course. but do it with pride because you represent the UFL and you represent the gold standard of spring football fan bases. You represent America's team who, may I remind you if I've never said it before, has never lost in Audi Field. Quick shout out to the DC Beer Snake conductors. Those boys are going to be handing out the rally towels on Sunday. Got to get one of those, right? They watch the show. They love us. We love them. Get a free towel. That's going to be sweet. See those rally towels out there. It's the Roughnecks and the Defenders. Good guys favored by 5 in this one. Total sits at 41. Forecast 60 with 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. Ideal football and boozing conditions in the district. So go see the Nats. Go by Walters. Grab a beer before the game. DC offense against the Houston defense. What do we know? Well, there's 5 things that I was able to break down that went wrong for Jordan Ta'amu and co. in San Antonio. First, they went 3 and out in their first drive. And that was after giving up a game-opening touchdown. If that rings a bell, it's because the same thing happened in the championship game. So that's a losing formula, right? I mean, second of all, Reggie Barlow goes conservative. He punted to play field position. We heard it live on the broadcast, and he settled for field goals a lot. When the dude on the other sideline was dialing up fake field goals and going for every single 4th down. Third, they couldn't run the ball. They could not get Cam Harris going whatsoever. They were down 14-0 at the end of the first, so it wasn't easy to establish a run. All of a sudden, Jordan had to throw it 45 times. At fourth, they couldn't protect Jordan. He was running for his life all day long. And finally, Gene DeLance lost his damn mind, much like I was on Sunday afternoon. But I didn't spit. That led to a 15-point swing and the same amount DC lost by, which was 15 points. So how do you fix that this week? Well, you're facing a Houston defense that terrorized the Memphis Showboats. I mean, they had 3 sacks, 7 TFLs, 2 takeaways last week. And really the solution for me is simple. You execute the reads in the RPO game. That's the priority. You work the short pass. You protect Jordan from Reuben Foster and some of those other dogs they have on the offense or the defensive line of Houston. Toby Johnson, Chris Odom might be coming back from injury. If you have it on 4th and short from inside the 25, go for it. 1, 2, I would even say 3 yards out. Go for it, Reggie. That's what we want to see. Get a first half lead, pound the rock in the second half. Darius Higgins, the backup running back, should be coming back. Maybe he'll become the feature back of this offense. But you got to ride your defense because they're ready to feast this week, and they're ready to get a win in Audi. The biggest mismatch of the entire UFL weekend for me is the Roughnecks offense against a pissed-off Greg Williams, who was not happy with week 1. The third down defense actually excelled for DC last week. That's a great sign for Greg. It's his favorite down to blitz you. And Houston's O-line has no shot. I'm sorry, they got no shot on Sunday. They gave up a bunch of sacks last week. The running backs only mustered 19 yards on the ground. But I'll give Jarrett Garantano this. He does a pretty good job escaping the pocket. I like what I see there when he gets on the run, but that could be huge for this kind of defense, but that doesn't always guarantee a positive play just because he can get out of the pocket. Do the Roughnecks go Reed Sinnett here? I don't know. I don't think it matters. Behind this offensive line, I mean, P.J. Walker ain't walking through that door. So, as much as it pains me to say, the Defenders are the only team that did not find the end zone in week 1. I'm sitting here doing a week 2 preview show, and my team has not scored a touchdown yet. That hurts. But they can only go up from here, right? And this weekend they bounce back. Comfortable home cover for the greatest fan base in spring football. This is an all-around better team. Total, I think, is too much for these defenses. It's too high at 41. Even if DC finds that offensive rhythm and they're able to score, 4 touchdowns, Houston isn't scoring more than 1 touchdown on this defense. The Defenders will move to 10-0 at Audi Field. 10-0, Zook, in franchise history. That's 10 in a row. Let's go if we get this one. I'm pretty confident that they will. I'm going defenders big. I like the cover. I like the under. Zook, I dare you. I dare you. I mean, you talk about you're going to fade DC all season. Are you going to put up or shut up? Let's see it. I got to see this.
It's a sad day.
I don't even want to hear what you. Oh!
It's a sad day. Come on. I mean.
Oh, we want the beer snake.
No, stop it. Stop it. I mean, this is a no-brainer if you're looking at money line. DC's offense greater than Houston's offense. Defenses are comparable. Offense is always going to win in the end.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hate it. But money line, you got to take it.
225. That's juicy. You know, Zook can't give me the cover. Zook well, he won't give me the cover. He'll just give me the straight pick. But that might be the only time. We'll see. We'll see. I know Zook cares about his record. In fact, 3-1 straight up last week, right? In your picks?
No, 2-2. The St. Louis, Michigan game screwed
that's
me.
That's right. Yeah, you were 2-2. Want to know best bets though? Is all that matters.
Yeah.
So that is the weekend in UFL. It's time to reveal our week 2 destination for the Battle of the Brands Tour, where I travel the country to witness football's newest rivalry, which is the XFL and the USFL. As you see, we are off to Memphis, Tennessee at Simmons Liberty Bank Stadium, the old site of the Liberty Bowl, for a crossover tilt between two 1-0 squads that we just previewed. And I know what you're thinking. Listen, why am I not going to D.C., right? I have an excuse. It's a 4 p.m. Sunday kick. I always stay after the game to do media, talk to coaches, and if I drive home, that puts me back into this chair well past Zook's bedtime. So if I go to D.C. this weekend, a Sunday night show doesn't happen, which we can't have that in the best interest in for our viewers. I'm going to Memphis, and I will say this game is no afterthought. I'm stoked to be headed there. I'm going to get me some fried catfish, some barbecue in Memphis, and some mac and cheese. Nobody does the food like the South. And make sure you stay glued to our Twitter feed. I'll have a full day of content from wire to wire for you from Memphis in this Battle of the Brands Tour episode 2, a full day of behind-the-scenes content. Excited for that one. All right, best bets time. Pretty stacked card.
Yeah,
this
5
week,
of them.
Zook, huh? 5 plays, and look at it. Maybe for the first time ever on Spring Ball Boulevard, we're on the same side.
Not
Vamos,
really.
Brahmas.
Oh, I see, for the Brahmas.
Yeah,
All right,
it counts. That counts. I'm taking money line because at 1-2 overall last week, and again, we proceeded with caution. Now we're back to full units. But at 1-2 overall, I'm not losing by 1.
You're back to full units. I was betting full units.
We don't unit shame.
I'm not unit shaming you. I'm
He's
just
unit
saying,
shaming.
don't say that I didn't bet full units. I was very
Against my advice.
clear last year. I was on a full.
Well,
So just
good for you, Zook. You're 1-0.
I like to correct you.
San Antonio, we talked about it, why we're lined on this one. I mean, this is for us, Zook, to bond over the love of football. We bond over the love of money. That's what it is. Right?
That's why the signs are green.
I booked it at -125. I don't care. I'm not messing around with 1 point here. Zook's going to lay the 1.5. It's already up to 2.5. We got it early in the week. Will our first ever double play on the Boulevard come down to a destroying kick?
Ooh. I
Kicked
don't
pretty
know.
good on kickoffs last week.
on
I feel like
kickoffs.
we haven't talked about him much, but he was actually one of the best kickoff guys across the entire league.
He was, and I don't want to hate on the guy because he's got too many followers to mess with. However, I think they chose that fake punt or that fake field goal
Because he missed it.
because he missed it so bad.
Yeah, you had one game where a guy was making a 64-yarder when he got iced. There's nothing more that's going to give a coach more confidence saying, okay, fine, we'll do it.
And
Yeah,
credit. I mean, for your first kick professionally in how many years? Since college?
Oh, yeah.
Man, could you imagine the juices flowing through him right then, trying to kick that ball? Oh, boy.
Right. Yeah, that's going to – I mean, I think – I have faith, indeed, to get it done. if that's what it comes down to. I'm also booking DC -5 and the under. Again, I think some big mismatches on the card. You have the Memphis offense against the San Antonio defense. I don't think the Memphis offense will do much. And the Houston offense, huge challenge this week against that DC defense. I considered both unders actually in those games. In fact, I kind of like the Birmingham, Michigan under as well. I mean, under mania, 4 for 4 last week. How could you go wrong with unders, you know?
Yeah, that's what they want you to think.
They didn't really get much lower. I mean, they didn't really adjust them. So
Yeah, what, a point? 2, maybe? I can't remember. What was
Yeah.
the lowest last week? 40.5?
maybe 38, 39. with
I don't think it
Houston
was that
defense.
low. I think they
Yeah.
were all in the 40s.
Yeah, they were around the same. So, Zook, other than San Antonio, which we talked about, you got a interesting one here.
I do. Man. So I'm threading the needle with this pick because I took St. Louis to win straight up. I'm not betting that. But I'm taking the 5. I don't think Arlington's getting enough respect for sticking with what we're calling the number 1 team in the league until halftime. I mean, without that bomb down the sideline,
Yeah.
they're what, 11-6 at half?
Yeah.
And that was the momentum swing. And then everything changed, and they never got momentum back. I took the 5. But if I really wanted to take the money line, Arlington,
Come on.
I really did.
I mean, do you realize in their last 11 regular season games, they're like 2-9 against the spread?
I get it.
This is the Renegades, baby.
I
Come
get
on.
it. And we did. We talked on the phone a few times earlier
Yeah.
this week about this, and you told me I was stupid. On Sunday
I would
night,
never say such a thing to you.
somewhat. On Sunday night, I'm going to sit here and be laughing that I'm 3-0. And that's it.
Well, we'll see in Arlington. Lindsey Scott Jr. maybe? Question mark. The USFL faithful last week they were trying to get the Fade Fresh hashtag trending. Boy, rough week for me. I mean, they were 2-0 against me last week, but hey, a lot of ball game left, folks. 14 games to go. I got plenty of time to turn it around. Also, let me add, Birmingham shouldn't even count in this rivalry when you think about it. When they brought in 80% of their starters from NFL camps that are on the team for the first year. Yeah, if you can't tell, I'm coping. I'm coping a little bit. I'm coping. Just a
Yeah,
little.
you're just a little bit
All
out of
right,
line.
The
but
hell with this.
whatever.
People's gambler. What you got this week in DFS world for us?
Stardom, Case Cookus. Cookus completed 23 passes on 40 attempts for 204 yards and a touchdown and a pick last Sunday against Houston. The most important growth for a team is from week 1 to week 2, and I believe the Memphis offense will take their next step forward and look to expose the Brahmas secondary. Against a struggling DC offense, the Brahmas defense still managed to give up 4 big completions of 15 yards or more. If given enough time from his O-line, look for Cookus to sling it around the block for the Showboats in their home opener. Start Case Cookus. Sit-'em, Anthony McFarland. The former Pittsburgh Steeler exploded onto the scene in Week 1 with 75 all-purpose yards and a touchdown. But his Week 2 matchup doesn't bode well for him as he's facing an aggressive Memphis defense who only allowed 43 rushing yards a week prior. If the Brahmas want to continue on the path of success, they will need to run the football. Look for John Lovett to be utilized more in the run game this week and McFarland to be used as a receiver out of the backfield. Sit Anthony McFarland. Sleeper, Benjamin Victor. Victor caught 2 passes on 4 targets for 37 yards in Birmingham's win over Arlington last Saturday. Compiling over 400 yards of total offense, rostering Stallions are highly valuable for your DFS lineup. Victor was the highest graded Stallions receiver according to PFF at 76.3%, so look for him to be a consistent target for Corral entering Week 2. Sleeper, Benjamin Victor. Follow me on Twitter at peoples_gambler for my full DFS lineup, and we will see you next week.
another deeply informative segment from our guy, TPG. You are losing money if you're not listening to him. He had a great start and sit last week. Sleeper could have used some help, but he's back, and he's got three solid ones. I have some questions about Cookus, but I'm not about to step in front of TPG. He's got enough information there in that segment to back himself up, for sure.
I agree. And since the last broadcast, we described to him the definition of what an actual sleeper was. It wasn't, they're supposed to do good, not bad, not actually be sleepers.
I'm trying to hype this kid up. You're burying him. Episode 2. Welcome to Spring Ball Boulevard.
That's
the most
right.
Toxic UFL show on the internet.
Listen,
Jeez.
he 2 out of 3. I said it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Ask Meatloaf.
Better than I did. It was better than I did. Well, if you enjoyed the show tonight, I'll say it again. Drop us a like. Subscribe on YouTube. We do this for free for you because we love football. And I am so psyched for that beer snake. I hope Fox embraces it the way ESPN did. I know it's the only Fox game of the weekend, so you're probably going to get Menifee and Joel Klatt, who are like a solid crew and some of the more professional broadcasters they have in this thing. But unbutton the shirt, let the tie down a little bit, Joel, and enjoy, DC. Get into that beer snake. Put the sideline reporter up there. Let's have a little bit of fun. You can follow me on Twitter if you're not watching there at MattyFreshTV. Stay tuned for our Battle of the Brands tour in Memphis on Saturday. To my Defenders family, of course, I'm going to miss you this week. But make sure you get down to Navy Yard early. Like I said, the Nats are playing, so it's going to be popping. For the director, producer, and owner of Studio Z, Chris Zook, I'm Matty Fresh. And always remember, there is no such thing as football season. We'll see you Sunday night for a recap.